Good evening, good evening, good evening. So, first off, I hope everybody's well. It's Hayley from Parallel Coaching. So, we're doing a live revision tutorial this evening. There is a lot of questions going on that people have been asking me in advance. So, there's going to be a good mixed bag today. And obviously, we're live. So, the main aim is to get all of your questions this evening as well. Now, if I look like I'm looking at two different screens, it's because I am. There is basically Facebook Live going on one, YouTube Live going on the other, so you can check us on either. If you could just let me know you can hear and see me okay, that would be fantastic. And if you're watching a recording, then just fast forward a couple of minutes so that you miss all this kind of nice waiting around part, and that will allow you to get cracking on straight away. So I'm going to move this so that I do less of that looking around thing. Hopefully that won't press any buttons. So that should be better. Fingers crossed. Okay, so all right, let's go with that. So how are you all this evening? Please do pop a little comment below. It would be lovely to hear from you. So how are you? What have you been up to? How's the start of your week been? I can't believe we're Wednesday already. It's been a bit mental. So yeah, it'd be really good to hear from you. Pop a little comment in. So there are a few comments in particular that I've had in advance that people want to go through tonight. One in particular was to discuss the difference between, so like the structure of a muscle, so the anatomy of a muscle. They're getting confused with the connective tissue part, which is the endomysium, epimysium, perimysium, so we will go through those, definitely. That comes up in your level 3 anatomy and physiology. Definitely level 3, not so much level 2. Then we're also going to give a couple of questions in relation to nutrition and also a few anatomy and physiology mock questions because they've been really popular and a few people have just been requesting those. So we're going to pop those, we're going to do those as well. And then I had a couple of questions from Kelly this evening. So Kelly, if you're here as well, please do give us a little thumbs up so I know you're watching. But Kelly was asking in relation to the principles side of level 2 and just the adaptations for special populations. So in particular, she was asking about disabilities. How do you know how to adapt for those? And that comes up in the planning section as well at level 2. So we're definitely going to do that. And then the other things that that we had as a question. Oh, there was also a business side of it as well. So someone wanted to know how can they not add any more hours to their day, but be able to help more people. Which sounds like a good goal to me, and I'm sure that'll affect a lot of you. So if you're really in a rush and you want me to cover one of those sooner than the others, or you've got your own questions, pop a little comment in below, because that'll be wonderful, and that will allow me to be able to sort of fire back some answers to you, and we can kind of go from there. Like I say, it's going to be an awesomely mixed bag today. But first off, let me know you can hear me. Give me some little thumbs up and wonderful things like that. So how has your week been? Anybody? If I can find my pen, I'm going to go straight into talking about the anatomy of a muscle rather than the muscle of anatomy. Lovely, nice to know you are there and listening. Thank you for the little thumbs up. So let's go through the anatomy of the muscle, and this in particular comes up and can be a little bit confusing when you're first going through things. So the reason why I want to go through this is because I had somebody ask me, how do I remember the difference between an endomysium, a perimysium, and an epimysium? Now, if you're not level 3 anatomy and physiology, you're going to be listening to these like, what the? Please don't panic. Just store this in the back of your head for later. And if you're watching the recording, you can skip through if you're not at the level 3 point. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so the thing that I really want to go through in particular is the sort of structure. Now you've seen this in in your anatomy and physiology manuals, or if you're on our revision mastery, you've seen us do this via a PowerPoint presentation. But usually it looks like it's part of the sliding filament theory, and you get this bundle of muscles, and then they kind of break it down, and you can sort of see the muscle fiber sticking out the end. And that's all very well, but it kind of can get a little bit confusing and a little bit I think the word is, because it's so intricate that then trying to understand that and then make that 3D in your mind and then apply it to your body can just be a little bit raw. Now this question came in off the back of what we done on Friday's revision tutorial. I'm going to say Friday. It might have been last Wednesday. I think it was last Wednesday. So on the last revision tutorial that we did anyway. And on that we were basically talking about how the sarcomere and what a sarcomere is. And I drew you a little post-it note that had a sarcomere on it, and it looked a little bit like she says, drawing as she goes. There's no one I made earlier on this one today. So I had a little sarcomere, looked like this. So you had your actin around the edge, and you also had your myosin in the middle, and together that created a sarcomere. So each of these sarcomeres, remember, stack end on end, and that is both. They are both myoproteins. They are muscular proteins, myofilaments. So they stack then one sarcomere followed by another, followed by another, followed by another. So sarcomere is the first thing you need to know. So first thing is sarcomere. Now, I know on Facebook Live, when you see this, it's going to be the wrong way around. But if you're fantastically on YouTube, then this will be the right way around, which is always good, hey? So if you want to see this later, go over to our YouTube channel, and then you can see it, and it'll all be the right way around. So sarcomere is the first thing. This is this one, actin and myosin, both together. Then you've also got, if you have these linked up, end on end, on end on end, they become a muscle fiber. So the next one is muscle fiber. Now, this muscle fiber, so again, Kelly, this one is not level 2, this is level 3, definitely level 3 for the breakdown of the muscle fibers and the anatomy of a muscle. You don't need to know this for level 2. Definitely level 3. Is that okay? Give me a little quick thumbs up that that's okay. So in relation to the sarcomere and then the muscle fiber. So sarcomere was what we drew a moment ago with the actin and the myosin. And actually, as I do this as a little doodle, it's nice to use this as your brain dump. So sarcomere, that's this little square with the strange looking kind of caterpillar type shape. And then the little box around it. So that's your actin and myosin inside. That makes one whole sarcomere. Now remember, your muscle fiber is the combination of all of those. So you have them all back to back, making up one long fiber. So if you imagine each of these boxes is a sarcomere. So each box is a sarcomere. They all build up end on end into one muscle fiber. Perfect. Awesome. I had a comment, somebody asking, am I sitting on the floor? Yes, I had a heavy leg session this morning, and sitting on a chair is really not helping me. So I am sat cross-legged on the floor, yes, in case you wondered. Okay, and then throughout this muscle fiber, so where on earth was I? So from that muscle fiber, you then have this, you have all these muscle fibers build up together, but around each of those, each muscle fiber is a little coating. So this coating then goes the whole way around the muscle fiber itself. Okay, now this coating is a connective tissue, so it's responsible for connecting tissues together. Now this one is an endomysium. Now you're going to hear the word mysium a lot. Mysium comes from the word, obviously, muscle, which is myo. So mysium is the muscle part. And then the endo, I want you to think it's the end of the line. It's the smallest it can get to. It's the furthest point. And that's because the sarcomere is the tiniest little bit within the smallest we can get to, and then we're gradually working our way bigger into a bigger muscle. Okay, so endomysium is the end of the line. It's the smallest it can possibly go to. Awesome, George. Yeah, that's fine. I will definitely tag you in later so you can see it. Did you have any questions, George? Any particular? Perfect. Pop them down and I'll definitely do it towards the end. Okay, so that's your endomysium. And that's the coating around a muscle fiber. Perfect. Now, these all muscle fibers all build up together to create a fascicle. So a fascicle is a bundle of muscle fibers. So then, if I have that end on end, so a bundle of muscle fibers, each of the muscle fibers is then surrounded, if you like, with the endomysium, and then a fascicle is this bundle of them all. But there is a connective tissue that then wraps all of those fascicles together. It's kind of like imagining you've got lots of straws. All these straws are then together, and then you're going to put a wrapping of cling film around these straws to keep them in place. So your fascicle is the straws all bunched together, but it's the connective tissue that goes around that is the perimysium. Awesome. Okay, so that kind of looks like this. Fab. And then from there, you then have all of these fascicles all build up together. So you have lots of fascicles, each with a little perimysium around them. These then build up into becoming a muscle body, which is then what we see. So the actual muscle belly. And that muscle belly is going to be a mixture of all of those little fascicles, each then surrounded. So I'm going to try and draw these like that with the little dots. So that's a mixture of all of these built up. So lots of these ones all built up into a muscle belly. And then that is then covered one final time into an epimysium. Now I'm going to give you a way of remembering all of these in just a second, but that's all then covered in an epimysium. This epimysium then covers the entirety of that muscle belly. So this is my muscle belly. So muscle belly, and it's totally covered all the way around, makes it epimysium. Now this part then leads off into your tendons, which then lead to your bone. So let's kind of draw that on there. Try and draw this bit off here, tendon, and then onto the bone. Well, I never did very good at art, so apologies. So it goes, epimysium is your large part around the muscle itself. That leads off into the tendon. So all the epimysium kind of bunches together. You know when you wrap something in cling film or foil, and then you kind of bunch the ends together and it gets really stiff at the ends? That's basically just your tendon. It's just a chunk of connective tissue, and that allows it to get attached to the bone. That's all that's happening. So you need a way to remember this, because that's quite a lot of information. And poor Kelly is only preparing for her level 2, but I'm sure your brain is boggled at the thought of having to try and remember this. So you're not there yet. Don't worry about having to think about this too much right now. Now, there are different sort of acronyms that people have set up, different stories, which is a good way of remembering it. So if you want to set yourself one up, you've basically got the first letter of each of these. You can maybe create yourself a little story, a little rhyme, someone done a little song. That's fantastic. I'm not going to create a song and sing it to you. You do not want that. It's not entertaining for anyone. So as part of this, then the way that I remember each of these connective tissues, which was the question that I had, so it was endomysium, perimysium, and epimysium. How do we remember what way round they are? So epi, let's start with epi, and I like to remember this is that it's epic. It's the biggest version, it's the biggest one that we have of those connective tissue bundles. So it goes around the entire muscle belly, and it is epic. It is the biggest of all of our connective tissue. It's the most epic. Okay, then the perimysium, I love this one. You're going to think I'm mad, but I love this one. So the perimysium, remember that this is in the middle of these three, based purely on the fact that when you have your peri-peri, I know it's stuck slightly differently, but your peri-peri chicken at Nando's, you generally put your peri-peri sauce in the middle of your sandwich rather than on the outside. So you put it on the middle of your wrap or your burger or whatever it is you have rather than on the outside. So peri-peri goes in the middle, perimysium. Please let me know you're listening and that I'm not just talking about Nando's on my own. So peri in the middle is a way of remembering that one. And then endomysium, like I said earlier, is end of the line. So that's the smallest. So end of the line, smallest that you can get to. End of the line. Now that's how I remember these three in particular. So generally someone just needs a little memory jog. That's how I remember the difference between endomysium, perimysium, and epimysium. Give yourself something to link it to. Epimysium is epic. Paramecium is, think about peri-peri sauce. Your peri-peri goes in the middle of your sandwich. It is the middle of the connective tissues. And then your endomysium is your end of the line. It's the smallest point. Fab. Okay, I'm going to leave you to look at that one for a second. So if that's been useful, then give me a couple of little thumbs up, just so that I know that you're listening and that this is something that you can take away with you. Now, when people have set this up before, it's also good to do a little acronym that you can remember that works for you, that allows you to remember these. If you've got that, then it's going to be a perfect part of your brain dump when you first get into your level 3 A&P exam. Get your blank bit of paper, write down your SMEFPME written down the side, and then start doodling all over it. Draw your little sarcomere, draw your muscle fibers, remember end of the line, remember peri-peri's in the middle, and then remember your epic. And then just get it doodled. And you can almost, if you're quite visual memory, you're almost just copying this. You might make it look a little bit better. But for a brain dump, it's just a case of chucking it down on paper so that you've got a memory jog to go back to. Let me know if that A makes sense and B whether you have any other questions. So pop those in and then I can sort of get back to you as we kind of go through things. So George, I know you had to run, but I believe you had a business-based question based on what we spoke about before. So how are we doing over on the wonderful YouTube as well? There is a few of you watching, so hello. Please do pop a little comment in if you have any questions. Generally, people find it hard to find the comment part on a live video stream. It's either directly underneath if you're watching it through a normal YouTube, in which case you just need to sort of drop down and you'll see it literally below you. Alternatively, if you scan to the left, if you're in sort of the Google Hangout side of it, then go to the left, you'll see a little blue and white square. That's your chat button. So when you go into that chat button, you'll be able to pop a little comment, and you'll be able to pop your comment in here. So you can pop a comment in there. Awesome. Okay. So the next questions we had, I'm going to bring over to your questions, Kelly, as you're here. So Kelly was asking in relation to principles, and also this overlaps into the programming section of level 2 fitness instructor, but you know what, it's really important anyway. So if you're out there working with clients at the moment, then this will be something that will come up. So if you've worked with disabled clients in the past, or you think that you might like to, this might be something to prick your ears up to anyway. But generally, from a disabled working with disabled clients, a interesting one when you're first getting started, because you don't really know what you can and can't do, and you're being asked to adapt a hypothetical program card anyway. Now this gets really confusing when you're at level 2 programming. So If you're doing your level 2 programming, which I know you're at the moment, Kelly, it will have sort of usually some exercises written down on the side or that you've done from your program card. So you might have like leg press, for example, and then you've got to adapt that exercise for all 4 different common clinical conditions. Now, that type of adaptation will include, so you'll have the young persons, which is age 14 to 16. You'll have disabilities, which we'll go through in a second. You have older adults, which are 50 plus, and then usually you have pre and postnatal as well. Now, you need to be able to put together some considerations for each of those. But what they're asking you, Kelly, in relation to the disabilities one, is to pick one specific disability and then fill that in relation to it. So you might fill in your leg press part and say, well, the leg press, if I had a blind client, what would I do differently from a non-blind client? So you're literally going to explain to them that difference, which means that you kind of are talking them through and saying, I would guide them to the machine, I would help them with the changing of the weight, I'd be conscious not to just reach across them to change the weight for them. I would be much clearer with my voice and give more teaching points. You might also say that you have to be a little bit more analytical to their posture and their technique, and feel free to stop them partway through in order to correct that. And that probably would be the main sort of areas for that. You might have one of the conditions or disabilities might be something like multiple sclerosis. How would you adapt a sit-up for somebody with multiple sclerosis? Well, actually, now I can't get down to the floor, so I'm actually just going to sit them on an unstable surface like a stability ball or stability disc, and I'm going to work with them on a pelvic tilting basis. So you might be able to give an adaptation or an alternative instead of just the of like what they're going to do. So you might sort of explain how you're going to adapt teaching it, or it might be that the difference is more about adapting and progressing and changing it in particular. Does that make sense? Kelly, if you're still with me, can you just check whether that answers your question? So pop a little comment in if that's online with what you wanted, and also little heart or like is always good, so that I know that we're on track. If not, angry face works too, just so I know. Fab. Okay, so that's the main thing with that disability part of the programming. It's about how do you adapt it for one particular type of disability, because else you're just going to write, well, it depends on the disability every single time. When it comes to actually physically then working with a client, that helps. When it comes to physically then working with a client, it's not just about what you do. It's not just about a general program, and that's basically the whole point of it, is that you need to sit down and chat with them and find out what they can and can't do, and then your first session needs to be very, very particular. So as you're going through things, this is very strange, but I've just got a knock at the door. Bear with me. How bizarre. Are you okay? Hello, you alright? Yeah, I'm in the middle of the Yeah, of course, yeah, no worries. Cheers. Oh, sorry guys. So massive apologies. It turns out somebody wanted to canvas to sell for a charity, to fundraise for a charity. So that one is gone. So back to it. I'm glad that helped in relation to the disability side of it, Kelly. But when you're working physically with a client that does have disabilities, you need to see each client as an individual, and that's what it's really about. So you start off at the first point whereby you do sit down, have a chat with them, find out what their capabilities are, and then gradually build up. Start off really, really simple in the first session. Don't take any risks. Find out what they can do, and you might feel like you're not progressing them, or like they're not able to do very much straight away, but you need to find out where you're comfortable at fitting in with those as well. And that's really important for the exercise referral guys as well. I know there's a few of you watching. Okay, so in relation to, if Kelly, you're happy with that, then I've got a couple of questions on mock questions to go through, some for nutrition and some for anatomy and physiology. Now for this, I need you to be interactive as much as you can, which means that if anything is going on the YouTube, then please do pop a little comment in so I can see you. That would be great. I would like to be able to know that you are there and watching. So, in relation to, let's have a look. Shall we look at the nutrition one first? So, nutrition mock question. So, these mock questions came in for Ben. Ben was just saying, look, I would really like some more mock questions, and that is fantastic, Ben. I'm also going to put in here a link so that you can get the 101 anatomy and physiology mock questions, and also there might be some 50 mock questions that I can send you. In fact, if you want the mock questions for the nutrition, then send me a message or an email, and then I can send that across to you, because the page isn't totally up for that. But the anatomy and physiology, I will pop a link in so you can download 101 of these lovely things. Just one in particular. Which one? Jackie, what's your please about? What would you like? So let's pop that into there. So Jackie, I'm guessing your please is in relation to the anatomy and physiology questions. Let me know, and I will ping them across now, if that's what your please is. So bear with me. This is just loading computer. So this is for your 101 mock questions. Okay. So I'm going to pop this underneath this video, but you need to just bear with me a second. So I'll pop it into the YouTube because I'm here. So that's the 101 mock questions. For those of you that are on YouTube, you should be able to see my comments. That one's gone on live, so you can then click on there. All you got to do is pop your email in. It will arrive in your email inbox straight away. So you'll get your mock questions straight away after that. And then the same for right, Facebook, it will be there in a minute. Bear with me. So I'm going to go with the nutrition mock question first. And the mock question we have for this one is, during digestion, the stomach, A, absorbs carbohydrates into the blood, B, releases hydrochloric acid to kill bacteria, C, releases insulin and glucagon, or D, absorbs vitamins B and K. So have a little go. Is it A? So this is the question again, is during digestion, the stomach, and then you need to complete this bit, absorbs carbohydrate into the blood, or is it B, releases hydrochloric acid to kill bacteria, C, releases insulin and glucagon, or D, absorbs vitamin B and K? So pop an answer in. Is it A, B, C, or D? And I will put the little link into the Facebook for you now. Bear with me. Nutrition questions. So Jackie, I will send you through the nutrition questions. I have 50 of those waiting. I know that's what you're after. So we'll do a couple now, and then the rest of them will come through on, I'll send them across on direct message to you. So if anybody wants them, pop a little comment below just saying nutrition questions, and I will then send them across to you on direct message straight away, probably after I've finished on here tonight, if that's okay with you. Okay, fantastic. So the 101 mock questions are on there. That's for anatomy and physiology. If you want the nutrition ones, then do pop a little comment in just so I know. Right, let's do another one. So has anybody replied? Has anybody replied in relation to this question 1 in relation to during digestion, the stomach absorbs carbohydrates into the blood. The stomach A absorbs carbohydrate into the blood, B releases hydrochloric acid to kill bacteria, C releases insulin and glucagon, or D absorbs vitamins B and K. So you had a little while to think about it, and I saw a few replies backwards and forwards. The answer is, so B, releases hydrochloric acid to kill bacteria. I think that one's a little bit straightforward in relation to, we know that the stomach is an acidic environment. Even if you haven't necessarily done the nutrition module yet, you know it's an acidic environment, and you know that it kills bacteria, and acid is going to kill bacteria in that. Absorbs carbohydrate into the blood, that's done in the small intestine. So that's done in the main small intestine. There is some small amounts of carbohydrate that's even absorbed in through the mouth itself. So Karen, we are live now, so you should be able to pop in some questions with us and answer those questions that I pop through. So please do, questions and answers, just pop them in. C, releases insulin and glucagon. That's going to come from the pancreas. So if it was talking about pancreas in relation to digestion, that would have been C. And then D would have been absorbs vitamin B and K, is going to come from within the small intestine as well. So that's primarily for absorption. So if you know about absorption, that's going to help as well. And then I'm going to have one more nutrition question firing out to you, but I really want to see some answers on this one, so don't leave me hanging. Okay, how many calories does 1 gram of fat provide? So just 1 gram. How many calories does just 1 gram of fat provide? And you know what? I'm not going to give you any options on this one. Just pop a little comment in below. How many calories does a single gram of fat provide? If you want options, I can do it. But Jackie, you are on it. Fantastic. Is there any other people that want to pop in a couple of little comments? Make sure those are going in. Kelly, awesome. You are 100% correct. It is 9. So 9 calories of fat, 9 calories per gram for fat. Now, carbohydrates and proteins are both 4 calories per gram, but fat is at 9 calories a gram. So double in relation to calories, which is why fat gets such a bad name. And it really does get a really bad name because it's basically dense in calories, and based on the energy balance equation, they look at calories in, calories out. If you look at your plate and you've got a certain amount of food on there, we look at very high calorie food as being very bad. But we do all have different demands, and as long as you kind of meet that amount for in and out, fat isn't as bad as people put it out there to be, because you've got all those different types of fats that are very, very important. So polyunsaturated, monounsaturated, unsaturated, trans fats, and saturated fats, which one do you think is worse for you? So which of those is worse for you? Polyunsaturated, monounsaturated, trans fats, and saturated fats, which one is worse for you? And I'll give you the technical reasons after as well. But which one do you think is going to be worse for your body and for your health and have greater risks associated to it? So please do pop a little comment in below. Jackie's on it. Coming in before I give away any answers. Fab. Keep them going. Jackie, you're 100% right. It is trans fats. So trans fats basically will double the amount of LDLs in your body and produce them just as double as quickly as saturated fats do, which is a huge difference. So saturated fats are the ones that your exam will say are bad, and they are bad. We need to consider that. but trans fats are 100% worse, again, basically. And what these fats are doing is that they adapt how we take cholesterol on in the body and how we then use that cholesterol and how that gets affected in our body. So depending on the fat we take in, that will then go into our liver. It will then change that and move it and help use it to help create our cholesterol. And this is in very crude terms, but we use that fat and what we eat to help create cholesterol in our body. So that cholesterol that we then create is basically gonna either be good for us. Now we need a certain amount of, yes, you're right, Jackie, we need a certain amount of saturated fats. We also need a certain amount of unsaturated fats as well. So we need both of those. However, trans fats are the ones we want to look out for because they have been artificially made by forcing the saturation process. A monounsaturated fat or a polyunsaturated fat, which has less oxygen, saturated in oxygens, saturated in carbons around, so it's then forcing more of those together. So as it forces them more on it, it forces that saturation process, but it's done by a very highly chemical process that when it then reacts in our body, we create the bad of the cholesterol at double the speed, which means we're basically dropping loads and loads of litter all over our body at a greater speed than if we just have saturated fats. So scale, poly and monounsaturated are the best ones for our health. You're going to get those from things like avocado oils, nuts, olive oils, fish oils. That's where you're going to get those. Saturated fats generally associated to being with meat, but also coconut oil is also saturated fat. But we found out that we do need some of these because actually we need these in relation to building the lining of cells. We need it in relation to, we have hormones and enzymes in our body because they are created from the cholesterol that is made from saturated fats. So we need this balance. So it is important. Now, the trans fats we can live without because it's a form of saturated fat that's been manipulated. It's been forced to be saturated via a manipulation process. And the impact that has on our body is bad. You're going to find trans fats in things like margarines, pastries, all the stuff that tastes amazing, hey? But all these kind of, and you'll know because it's saturated fats and acting like saturated fats, usually tastes amazing, but they stay for longer. They stay fresh for longer. So rather than butter, which you leave out, and coconut oil, you leave out on the side, it goes soft if it gets warmer. With these, they don't melt. They stay still and set. So you're going to get them in a lot of pastries and margarines, things like that. Okay, well, I kind of went off on a deviation on that. Would you like one more nutrition question or would you like an anatomy and physiology question? Please do pop a little comment in. What would you rather? Nutrition or physiology? Also, if I could give you guys some little thumbs up, I would love to give you some thumbs up right now because that's basically you are rocking it on answering these questions correctly. Jackie, yep, let's move over to anatomy. Can't agree more. So, on the anatomy. Perfect, Kelly. Okay, so this one. What is the immediate effect of the Valsalva Maneuver? Okay, Valsalva Maneuver. What is the immediate effect? Is it A, no change to blood pressure, B, decreases blood pressure, C, increases blood pressure, or D, decreases heart rate? So pop in the answers A, B, C, and D. Obviously, if there are more of you watching other than just Jackie and Kelly, you're more than welcome to pop in your answers. Even if you're watching the recording, please do still put them in. What is the immediate effect of the Valsalva Maneuver? Is it A, no change to blood pressure, B, decreases blood pressure, C, increases blood pressure, or D, decreases heart rate? So if you can't remember the A, B, C, and D, just write in what you think happens when you have the immediate effect of a Valsalva maneuver. And I'm going to look out for those answers. So make sure you pop them in now. Jackie's put C. C is increases blood pressure. Awesome. Looking good. Let's wait and find out what Kelly writes. No pressure, Kelly. And it's a little bit mean based on you're doing level 2. But I'm going to go ahead and let you know that Jackie got that correct. So C, increases blood pressure. Most people don't really understand what the Valsalva maneuver is, so I'm going to quickly describe that whilst we're here. Yes, this one is level 3. It was a little bit mean for you. So what is the immediate effect of the Valsalva maneuver? It will increase blood pressure. So a Valsalva maneuver is when you're basically holding your breath, but in a certain way that increases the pressure within the body. So, for example, don't do this for very long because it does increase blood pressure and I don't want you passing out on me. So, if you literally block your nose and your mouth, but still try to breathe out. So you still try and breathe out. You should feel a little gaining in blood, like in pressure inside. It's that feeling of like when you're trying to blow up a balloon, and at the very end of the balloon, it kind of gets to that point where you can't blow out anymore because it's physically restricted, and you almost feel that right down in your stomach. Now, that's basically what's happening is you're increasing your blood pressure because you're gripping from your diaphragm and you're pushing out as much as you can, and in doing so your blood pressure will elevate. It actually increases your heart rate as well. Now, this is a very bad thing to do, especially if you have clients that have high blood pressure to start off with. So you definitely want to be avoiding it if they're hypertensive, but you also want to be mindful of clients that aren't necessarily got high blood pressure, but just more that they are more at risk of things like coronary heart disease further down the line. We want to be mindful of doing this. Now, when are they going to do it? A, they might do it if they're holding their breath, especially if it's a complex exercise. So if you're giving them a really complex exercise or a very tough exercise, quite often people will hold their breath because they don't know what to do. So plank is a classic. People just start holding their breath because they're not attuned to being able to use it. You want to keep that diaphragm moving the whole time. So it's also important that it's not just little shallow breaths, but they're using their diaphragm for diaphragmatical breathing. That's important. Then as part of that, also tight grip, especially when you're working with the more high risk clients, you want to avoid really gripping something really tight because that's when we start that kind of holding sensation, and that's generally that Valsalva effect where you're holding the breath. Also, kind of getting out of breath just by doing it. Also, the other side of in relation to Valsalva is those last few reps of a really hard exercise. So if you think back to the last time you lifted really, really heavy on an exercise, maybe you're lifting 12 repetitions, but on the from sort of 10, 11, 12 repetitions, you're really forcing it out. To the point that if you made a noise, it would kind of like wince and squeal as you're doing it. That kind of noise, that kind of sort of pressure that you have is the Valsalva maneuver because you're forcing and not breathing out. It is really essential to keep that breathing going, and then with your higher risk clients, you want to make sure that you're encouraging them to breathe, but you're also probably not going to that full level. They're going to go to challenge, but they're not going to go to absolute overload and fatigue like you would with a healthy client. Does that make sense? Let me know you're with me. Give me some little thumbs up. Let me know that you're with me. And then I'm going to give you one more anatomy and physiology. And I appreciate I've been on this for ages now, so you don't want to be chatting to me for that long. Give me some thumbs up if you're with me. That would be great. I just want to check that things are going okay. Okay, so what are the valves? Kelly, this would be appropriate for you as well because this does come up around level 2. So, what are the valves that prevent backflow of blood between the chambers of the heart called? Okay, so have a little go without me even putting any options down. That's a little bit harsh, isn't it? But have a little go. I'll give you 10 seconds to be having a think about what to put in there, and then I'll give you the options. So, what are the valves that prevent backflow of blood between the chambers of the heart called? So, you've got the chambers of the heart, and we don't want any blood flow going back. We want to encourage the flow to be going the way around it's supposed to. So, these valves that we have in the heart will stop backflow, and they're asking you what is the name of those valves. Please do pop a little comment in. I would love you to be able to answer it and have a go without the answers. Now, it's gonna be a spelling one, but that's okay. I accept any spelling. So A is atrioventricular as an answer. So is it atrioventricular valves? Is it B, semilunar valves? Is it C, arteriovenous valves? Or is it D, the aortic valve? Have a little go. Jackie's popped an answer in, and you managed to spell quite a tricky word, Jackie. So good effort. Okay, anyone else popping in some questions? Let me see how YouTube's doing over here. If you've got some comments coming on YouTube, that would be great. Let me see what's going on. Good stuff. Okay, so this one. Awesome. Okay, so Jackie's putting her spelling down to autocorrect. And Kelly, you're saying D. Okay, so D was aortic. Now, the thing it's asking for is what are the valves that prevent backflow of blood between the chambers of the heart? So think about what are the names of these chambers that we have in our heart. We have atria, which are at the top. So you've got the left atria and the right atria, and then you've also got the ventricles, which are the left ventricle and the right ventricle. So what would that little valve in between these chambers to stop backflow from happening? So this one in particular, Jackie, you are 100% correct, is A, atrioventricular, because you've got your atrium and your ventricles, and as the blood flow goes down from the atrium into the ventricle, we want it stopped backflow going from the ventricle back up to the atrium. Straightforward, hey? Sounds good, doesn't it? It's basically atrioventricular. The semilunar ones are also the ones that are aortic, and also there's a pulmonary valve as well. Those ones are the ones that exit the ventricles. So they go from the ventricles and then they're exiting. They're the highest pressure points. So that's the aortic and also the pulmonary. So these are the ones that are semilunar. They look like little half moons, which is why they're called semilunar. So semi being half, lunar being moon. And then arteriovenous, not sure where that's coming into it. It's certainly nothing to do with the heart in particular, and that's because it's talking about arteries and veins coming together. Don't need to worry about that. But yeah, atrioventricular. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to leave the mock questions here, but remember you've got the link, and I'm also, if you want me to send you nutrition questions, then just pop your little pop a little comment in saying nutrition questions. I will then personally message you or direct message you so that you have those nutrition questions. Lovely. Okay. Now there was a quick question in relation to business, and this is about basically they got to the point whereby they can't do any more hours in the day. They have no more hours in their day, but they want to be able to serve more people. My battery's low, so I'm not going to be much longer on here. So they basically want to be able to serve more people. And that's partly from a point of wanting to earn more money, but also because they are looking for the next challenge, and they're genuinely in it in order to help people. Now, the way that you can do this, there are multiple ways that you can do this. I definitely suggest you start off by working with classes and with small semi-private based PT. So you want to be working in a course-based scenario as much as you can, so you can create it goal related. You might do a 4-week kickstart course or a 6-week reboot, whatever you call it. This allows you to get people in for a fee than what you'd usually charge for one-to-one. But you want most of your clients to come through on this group-based process. Like what I'm doing now, it's one person to many within my hours, which means that I'm leveraging that, and I also don't need to explain the same thing over and over again. So if you've got lots of clients that are looking for the same goal, you set up one course or one series of sessions that they pay for the whole course, and then as they pay for that entire course, they then also are getting they're getting that promise of the goal at the end. So it might be 4 weeks, £8 that they lose. You might come up with some sexy titles to go with it, or a specific 4 weeks 4 kilo kind of weight loss thing that you might do. It might be about fitness, or being able to go couch to 5k, or whatever it is that you specialize in, but you package that up to be kind of 4 or 6 or 8 weeks that somebody can commit to. And then you join them in so that you get maybe 6 or 8 people, maybe as many as up to 20 into a group when you're a little bit more confident, and you bring them in so you have more people attending in one session. And that's how you're going to leverage your money the most and your time the most. But also that then allows you to hand pick the ones that you like and that like you and that want to commit that bit further, to then pay more to get you one-to-one. And that's a fantastic model to have, rather than trying to sell at one-to-one and it being very kind of price competitive, especially if you're in a club, and then working down to then try and get them into a group where they pay less. You want to actually work from the bottom, build them up into a group, and have several groups going. Ideally, you might just have one group in a course, and then allow them to upgrade into one-to-one or smaller group PT, so they're just in buddies, for example. And that depends on the types of clients you've got, but it's a really good one, and knowing what you do, I think that will probably be a fantastic solution for you. So let me know if that works for you. I know you're not watching right now, but let me know later when you manage to see it. Has anybody got any other questions for me before I scoot? Because my battery is running beautifully low on my phone. So please do pop a couple of little comments in. If today has been useful, can you just pop in the comments box what your biggest takeaway has been? I mean, it's been an absolute mixed bag today. We started off with the anatomy of a muscle, talking everything from sarcomeres, epimysiums, endomysiums, and perimysiums. Then we went through some principles in relation to disabilities, and talking about how you answer those questions, but also how you then work with clients that have disabilities. We done some nutrition mock questions. We done some anatomy and physiology mock questions. And if you want more anatomy and physiology, just check the comments. I've popped a link in there for some anatomy and physiology questions. 101 of them, in fact. But if you want nutrition, just pop a little comment saying nutrition questions, please, and I will then send you that via personal link. And then after that, what else did we have? We had a question on business in relation to leveraging out some time a little bit better, so they're starting off working with some group based and then going more into solos. Whew. And breathe. Can you clarify the order for ETM session? I've read 2 different things: mobility, warm up, main, flexibility, muscular strength, endurance. Okay. Exercise to music is not my speciality. I'm going to be totally honest with you, Kelly. I have done it, and in fact, I kind of shamefully say my degree is in dance. But exercise to music is not my speciality, so I don't know the syllabus off the top of my head. But what I would say is that you would start off with mobility as part of the warm-up, and look up Mars is a really good warm-up strategy. So you go mobility, activate posture, raise the pulse, and then do some stretching. That would be your warm-up. Then you'd go into your main section, which is going to include a certain aspect of cardiovascular and a certain area of muscular strength endurance as well, which is what you've written in your question. So cardio and muscular strength endurance make up the main section, and then in your cool down include a little pulse lower and some flexibility. So always start off with warm up to start off with. So you're going to ramp them up, which is going to be mobility, activate their posture, raise their pulse, and then allow them to stretch as part of that, ramp it up, then get into the main section, which will include cardiovascular, which is going to give them a really good peak on their heart rate. And then as you're bringing the heart rate back down, that's a good chance to do muscular strength endurance. And then you want to bring final bit of pulse lowering and like maybe some core exercises and flexibility right at the very end whilst they're cooling down. If you put flexibility part way through, they've then got to rewarm again. So if you look at it like a journey of the heart to go through, that's the easiest way of looking at it. Kelly, does that help? So I hope that kind of helps you with a bit of structure at least to get going on. So go from there. Lovely. Okay, so I am going to have to scoot in a minute because if not, it's going to hang up partway through. Those of you that are watching the recording, please still put in the answers to all of the questions that we've done in terms of mock questions. If you have more questions, please pop them in, and I'll get to you as soon as I can on my next live, as soon as I can. I'm hoping for Friday. So let's go for Friday, hopefully, for a next live session. If anybody has any other questions, please pop them in, and I'm going to wrap up for tonight because I've been on here an hour. So if you've been with me, it's been a pleasure. So in particular, Kelly and Jackie, we had a nice chat, and also Karen, you were live with us as well. I didn't get any questions from you, Karen, after you realised we were live. And then also George, I know you're popping back to have a little look through later. So please do pop any questions that you have. Also, let me know what your biggest takeaway has been from this evening. What have you learned on this session? That's what I'm interested in. We are dedicated to your learning. That's what we're here to do, is make you feel a lot more confident going forward for your exams, but also for working with clients out in the real world and just getting moving in your fitness career. So make sure you let us know what you've learned from this tonight and what your biggest takeaway has been. And I don't mean Indian. I mean like Chinese. No, I mean, what is your biggest takeaway in terms of what have you got from it? Let me know. Give me a last little thumbs up, and I will see you on the next one. So have a fantastic evening, and it's been a pleasure as always. So I'm going to sign off from YouTube now. Jackie, you need to start having bread in your Nando's for revision purposes. Absolutely, I don't have bread on my Nando's. I have no bread at all, so I'm totally with you on that. But it helps us remember it, hey? So fantastic. Okay, saying cheerio on